everyone, thanks for joining me today. Congratulations on making it to the end of your project. You're here because you'd like to learn more about weaving in your ends. This is probably the most memed about topic in the crochet and knitting community. I don't think anyone really enjoys weaving in their ends. Weaving in my ends was something that caused a lot of confusion for me when I was first getting started with crochet. I think a lot of beginners have an inclination to tie their ends using knots. It just seems more secure. And this would certainly be the easiest method, but unfortunately it's not more secure, and it also creates bulges in your work that can be felt and seen. The way that most crocheters and knitters finish their pieces, and the method that is formally taught by the Craft Yarn Council, is to weave your ends in without using knots. So let's look at how to do this in a way that won't cause the ends to float out of the piece. To get started, you're going to need a blunt yarn or tapestry needle. This is really important because if you try to use a regular sewing needle, you're going to mistakenly felt your piece and end up making a mess. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a tail end of 6 to 8 inches. Next, we're going to get the yarn onto the needle. You can do this by putting the yarn directly through the eye of the needle, or you can try this clever trick that I'm doing where you fold the yarn in half over the needle to create a nice clean edge. You then remove the needle and push the clean edge through the eye. So that's just what I'm doing here. We're going to begin by weaving about 1 inch along the side. We're then going to go in the reverse direction for about 1 inch, and then we'll change directions one more time, and that will really lock it in place. I typically then go one step further and weave my ends a couple inches into a row, and this gives the end a better chance to disappear within the work. So let me show you what I mean. What I'm going to do is weave the yarn in through the strands in a way that hides it. So what you're trying to do is just invisibly put it in through the fabric by going in between the strands of yarn. So you do that for about 1 inch. You can see I'm being really careful to not go through the strand of yarn. That would split the yarn. I'm working around the loops, so you can see there. Okay, so I've gone 1 inch in that direction. I'm now going to work up the piece for about 1 inch till I get to the end here. And again, I'm just being careful to go around the yarn. You don't want to split the strand of yarn, or if you're working with a traditional yarn, it's going to have some twist in it. Mine almost looks like roving wool because it's so thick. And that's just the yarn I'm working with. But typically what would happen if you make a mistake is that you'd go through the twist of the yarn and split that part of the strands. So just working along, giving myself a little bit more slack to work with here. This is the very corner of the piece. So now I'm going to go back in the other direction. Again, just being mindful of not splitting the yarn. You can see I almost did it right there. You don't want to pull too tight as you're going. If you pull it too tight, you're going to end up warping that part of the fabric. So just nice even tension as you work in and out of the stitches, just kind of losing the end there within that fabric. A little off camera here. Let's go back up so you can see. Okay, so now we've gone down, up, back again in the reverse direction. Now it's time to really make sure that yarn disappears by working into the row. So I'm just going to, again, for about 1 inch, weave the yarn across these stitches here in this row. Just weaving in and out. You don't need to go very far in. What I'm going to do now, you can take the needle off, and then I'm just going to pull the end just a little bit tighter than I actually want it to be. And then that's going to allow me to kind of pull the piece back down to its normal laying position, and then the yarn will just disappear within it. So I've pulled it a little tight there. I'm going to trim it, and then I'm going to get it back to the correct tension just by pulling it, and then you can see it's gone. And that wraps up this video. If you have any requests for tutorials, please let me know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful to you, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm dedicated to producing high quality content, and your support means a lot. See you in the next video.